Hey y'all, welcome back to Barry Mott's channel. Today we're going to talk about how to deal with weight loss surgery while you're at work. Okay, so this is probably one of my most common questions that I get is, how did you deal with this at work? How did you deal with the fact that you're losing weight so quickly and people are asking questions? And just how did you take the time off work without people wondering where you're going? So I think this is a great topic to talk about, so let's get into it. So for me personally, I actually had surgery when I was working at home at the time, so I didn't have as many of these experiences that some people have when they're in an office environment or they're at work where they're face-to-face with people. But I did still have questions, and I did still have people who wanted to know where I was, what I was doing, and then when they saw me, how am I losing as much weight as I am? So there were a lot of questions that came from it. So let's get into those now. So the first thing that I want to tell you is that you don't have to tell anyone if you don't want to. If you're not in a place where you want to be public about it, don't feel like you have to tell your coworkers, I had weight loss surgery. They are going to start noticing that you're losing weight, but if you're not comfortable saying that you had the surgery, just tell them I've made some lifestyle changes, and thank them for noticing and just go along with your day. Don't feel like you have to tell people that you had the procedure, because I think a lot of times when people are at work, they feel like they have to share this with people because you see them every day and they notice different habits that you have. But if you're not in a place yet where you're comfortable telling them, then don't tell them. One of the things that's going to be noticeable is if you start turning down food at work. So for example, I was on the liquid diet about to have my revision surgery done, and I couldn't have cupcakes because I was on the liquid diet. And I wasn't comfortable telling people that I was having the revision done. And so I kind of was just like, oh, you know, I don't need it. I don't need the cupcakes. Or I don't want one right now, I'm full. So when you start turning down different foods, you're gonna notice that people are gonna start recognizing that, and they're gonna be like, well, good for you, you're on a health journey or whatever it is, but people are gonna start noticing that. So be prepared if you start turning down food. People are gonna be wondering why, especially if you've been one that always takes part in the cupcakes or the treats that are at work a lot of times. So I would tell you to bring your lunch. Always bring your lunch, so then you're not in a place where if people ask you to go to lunch, you're stuck in this position where you don't know what to say because you're not comfortable saying that you had weight loss surgery. You can just say something like, I brought my own lunch, thanks for the invite though. And then again, if you do go out to lunch with people at lunch, you know, just tell them you got full. Don't make a big deal about it. Order something smaller and kind of play with your food a little bit. I know that sounds weird, but like sometimes if I'm at lunch or dinner with someone who I don't want to know how I had the surgery, which that doesn't happen anymore, but back in the day it did plenty of times, I would just sit there and like play with my food and like pretend that I was eating more, but I really wasn't. So if you're in a position where you have to go out to lunch with your coworkers, do something like that. Or like I said, play it safe and just bring your own lunch. I think it comes down to just doing things politely. Politely turn down food, politely just say thank you but no thanks. Because you don't want to come off like you just don't want to like get to know people, or you don't want to like go to lunch and get to know your coworkers. You don't want to come off like that, but you still don't want to put yourself in a position where you're stuck telling people you're something that you're not ready to, or putting yourself in a position where you're forced to eat something that you shouldn't be eating. I know food is a huge part of society, and it's a huge part of work because a lot of people will go to work and go to lunch with people and they get to know people, and it's a good experience for team building, but don't feel like you have to do it. But I will say you need to make sure you're making those connections in other ways, because if you're always turning down food or you're always turning down social events where there is going to be food, people are going to start like not liking you, or at least they're going to start wondering like, what's wrong with this girl, or what's wrong with this guy? Why don't they ever want to come to things? So if you're not in a place where you want to talk about it, just be prepared that you're going to have to make it up in other areas. The biggest advice I can give you is to be prepared for questions. If you're not wanting to answer that you had weight loss surgery, be prepared for what you're gonna say, because people are going to notice. When you start dropping weight really fast, they're gonna start noticing, and they're gonna wanna know how you're doing it, because maybe they wanna lose weight too, and they wanna know what's going on. So if you're not comfortable saying you had weight loss surgery, think of things that you are comfortable saying and be prepared for those questions. And y'all, just remember to breathe. Breathe through this, take a step back, and remember that you have come a long way, and it's okay that people are noticing this. I know it can be a little challenging because it's at work and you don't want people all up in your business, but take a step back and just reflect on what you're gonna say when people ask you questions, how you're gonna get out of situations that you're not comfortable being in, and just be prepared. Be prepared for those because they will happen. And when you're ready, you can share the news with people, but it might not be something you want to publicize when you're at work. So that's okay. Just figure out what works for you. So that's it for today's video. I hope you found this helpful. And if you did, please give it a big thumbs up and leave us some comments down below. Let us know what are the things that you've done to prepare for those questions or those hard situations you're in when you're at work after having weight loss surgery. Give us some tips and tricks and let us know how you're dealing with it. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.